Vanakkam and welcome to Freebirds. This is an exclusive interview on the recent Kozhikode Air India flight crash. Firstly, on behalf of Freebirds team, we express our deepest condolences for the lost lives and pray for the speedy recovery of the injured. Today, we have Mr. HariKrishna, flight instructor, to explain us about the accident and the situation which caused the accident. Welcome, sir.
It is actually, uh, I'm glad actually because of the sad incident yesterday. What happened actually, it's going to be recorded as a black day in Indian aviation. Since because the last crash was about 10 years, nearly 10 years back. It was around like May 10th, 2010 was the crash when the same incident was there. The tabletop runway was there. Mangalore crash. I hope you people remember about it.
Yeah, and
So we had again yesterday the same thing.
we could see there was a hard landing done. So, what is hard landing? Can you explain us about it?
Hard landing. Okay. First of all, hard landing is not at all good because all the aircraft is having a load factor limit. Suppose being a flight instructor, the aircraft which I'm flying is Cessna 172 and Cessna 152. So we also have a load factor for it. And the big aircraft like Boeing 737, Airbus A320, they all have hard landing. There is a certain time of load factor limit. Suppose, for example, in all airlines, they have set a limit of the moment you land an aircraft, it will register, it will rate you in a G forces. Suppose the company of the Boeing 737 gives you the permissible limit to land any aircraft within the limit of 2.65 G, which will be a G forces. The moment, see, obviously we can understand like it's a 64-ton aircraft. The moment it hits the ground, it is going to create some kind of impact, right? So that impact will be considered into as a G force. Okay, so G force limit given by the Boeing company for Boeing 737 aircraft is 2.65. See, this becomes a very high G factor for if you consider it as a landing figure. So all companies, as per their SOP, which is SOP means standard operating procedure. In that, it is described about how much landing G which we can withstand. Okay, like what aircraft safety is also an issue in it. If the landing G is more, then it can damage even some kind of instrument, some kind of systems in the inside the aircraft. Even though aircraft will be safe under the operation, but still it is going to damage something in the aircraft. So, Director General of Civil Aviation has given a guideline at how much G landing figure should be there for a particular landing for each and every day of the flight. For that same thing, Air India Express has 1.65 G. This should be the landing limit. Above this, if the G forces goes, then it will be reported as an incident and DGCA will come into role and they have to do the inquiry about it. Now, coming back to the hard landing concept. Hard landing, whenever a pilot is under, like if any incident happens, for a accident happens, if something goes wrong, some glitch is there. So at that particular time, a person is going to do a hard landing. Suppose, for an example, a normal landing looks like aircraft goes like this. It has to release on the surface and smoothly it will touch on the runway. This becomes a normal smooth landing. In that, the G factor comes around 1.3 to 1.4 G. Within this limit, if the G forces are there during landing, it makes it like a soft and a good landing. Now, for 1.6 G, which is the limit, which is the upper limit. About that, the incident is going to happen, right? So for that time, the aircraft might have dropped, like as we can see in the videos and people are talking about in the news also, that the aircraft dropped from 35 feet, which is actually a normal thing if you consider it as a Boeing 737. That is not a big deal. But what went wrong? Why did that? That is going to be. We have to wait for that because DGC has to look into it.
Does this G factor differ with the weather conditions?
No. This is the normal G factor which is being given by the Boeing manufacturer. Manufacturer of the
Okay.
aircraft is going to give this thing. It is just totally dependent upon only one thing, which is a technical issue. If technical issues is there, if aircraft is falling on its own, then only it is going to increase. Otherwise, it is going to, each and every pilot would like to do a soft landing, because whenever you become a pilot, the very first thing is taught to you when you go for the first solo is your landing. So since the day one of our training, we are being learned for doing a proper and a firm landing. So if it is a hard landing during training time also, it is being reported. So it is not something good. A pilot would not like it. And in the end of the day, a pilot has to take care of the comfort of his passengers also.
In yesterday's case, we could see there was a first attempt for landing which failed, and after a roundabout, pilot tried for the second attempt. So, can we take that there was some difficulty that pilot felt before taking the call to land the flight?
See, first of all, I will tell you this was the evening twilight time. Okay, the time which the incident took place was around 1:53, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so that time it's the sunset time. Basically, it was very close to the sunset time. So during that time, first we have to understand what happened about that airport condition. See, each and every airport is having its own issues with it, and plus point and negative points with it. Suppose if you are taking into consideration about this Kozhikode International Airport, which is the Calicut Airport in Kerala, it is basically a tabletop runway. So whenever the tabletop runway is there, it has optical illusion. I hope the viewers understand what is the optical illusion. Okay, sometimes the thing which is far from us, still it will appear to us that it is closer, and vice versa. Okay, and we should see one more thing is like during if you have read about it, like in 2011 also, Captain Ranganatham was there. He is a very experienced pilot. He is also an instructor of Boeing 737 aircraft. He has reported to DGCA about this particular airport that sir, it is under a down. What you can say, downpour is there on that airport. See, first of all, it's a tabletop runway. Okay, both the sides are not having any land in it. There is a cliff. Okay, so that is the reason. If you can see, if the mountain is there, if you cut the peak of it, if we make it flat, that becomes a tabletop.
Okay.
That makes it as a tabletop runway. Okay, so both the sides there is cliff. So DGCA was being suggested in 2011 itself that both the ends of the runway should have something known as RESA. What is RESA? RESA, Romeo Echo Sierra Alpha, runway and safety area, which increases the factors of the risk, whatever we are going to take, it is going to minimize it. It becomes easier for the pilot for the landing purpose also. So that was not there in that particular airport, which was being given in 2011 itself. And on top of being a tabletop runway, there was one more problem in it, which was it is a downslope kind of runway. Now you can understand if we are in a slope, you can understand how hard it makes, right? And during night time also, it makes it difficult. And as we all know, that was a wet runway also because it is a monsoon season going on, and runway had water also in it, water over it. Okay, so that might created some kind of illusion. Because of that, pilot might have go around for it. In the end of the day, safety comes first for each and every pilot in the world. So first attempt, I assume being an instructor that it would not be in a permissible limit. So that's the reason commander might have taken a decision for going around.
So, you mean to say there was the recorded structural change to be done to that particular Kozhikode runway?
Yes, 2011. I'm very sure that it was 2011 when Captain Ranganathan he suggested DGC about it, and after that no actions were taken. But still, I am we need to inquire about it because see, DGC in India today they are doing very good. The only factor we are lacking in today in our aviation is about the safety features. But still, India is an under developing nation. So we are doing good enough, but there is something more which should be done. So if it would have been done on a proper time, this accident would have been avoided.
So, is there any similarities with the incident which happened 10 years back in Mangalore, as you already quoted in the beginning of the conversation, with the
I
yesterday's
agree.
accident and 10 years back Mangalore accident? Is there any similarities other than the tabletop runway?
There are two things right now what you can say it as like both the runways are tabletop. This is the one similarity. See, second similarity, we cannot conclude in there might be some similarities or not. Why? Because if you look into a Mangalore crash, in that it was clearly defined that the pilot error was there. Pilot was too overconfident that he will land. Okay, after he was not able to touch down till mid of the runway and still he initiated landing. So that was the wrong decision taken by the pilot. But if you take into condition like for this particular accident which has occurred yesterday, we are yet to know what actually happened.
Okay.
So I would not like to conclude now because it would have been too early because I was not there in the cockpit, I was not the visual with what's going on. And in the end of the day, once the report comes, DGCA would be the better person to tell about us that is it similar to the Mangalore crash or not.
In yesterday's case, DGCA says there is a fault in the front wheel spinning also, the functioning of the front wheel. And the weather was also too bad. Which do you think factored this accident more? The
See,
weather or the.
weather indeed. I see, being in flight instructor right now, I am also flying in South India itself. I am posted in Hyderabad. So I agree, weather is a factor, okay, which can give you ups and downs like anything. Uh, First of all, it's a monsoon season going on. It's raining everywhere in India. Second thing comes about the tabletop runway again. Because and third thing which would I'd like to say is that was a few light time, right? It was after sunset. We are talking about the night flying at that time. So weather might have created some kind of issues because being a landing whenever you are landing on a tabletop runway, it is not like all pilots are clear to land on a tabletop runway. First of all, I would like to explain you that because there is something known as special release. Whenever you are going to land on a tabletop runway, a proper training is being given to a first officer, second officer, and the commander himself. Whenever a person is been released to fly under a tabletop condition, either it can be a takeoff or a landing, a proper practice and a proper examination has been taken for it. First of all the pilots who were there in the cockpit were qualified enough to do takeoff and landing for that particular airport. That I would like to say. Second thing, wheels were spinning at that time or not, I would still like to say one simple thing that each and every aircraft, like all the airliners, has something known as black box. In that, each and every detailed information has been given, what pilot communications was going on during the flight first thing, what all instruments, what all readings were there, what systems was showing at that particular time. Each and every single thing is recorded in that black box. So I would still like to conclude in one way only. Until and unless that black box is not open and the information has not taken out, it is still very early to predict that the wheel was the issue or the weather was the issue.
But in this case, the pilot is also 22 years experienced person. He has also won Sword of Honor award also. And how do you think he missed his calculations?
See, I'll tell you one thing that each and every person, whenever something good happens, again faces something bad happens, again it comes to what a person is doing, how it is, right? So I'll tell you one thing: being a commander, he was a decorated Indian Air Force pilot. First of all, that thing, that title, Indian Air Force, itself gives you that he was a complete person, he was a complete knowledgeable and a decorated officer, and he was a very good pilot indeed. Okay, so having experience of 22 hours, indeed, that makes a very good factor. He was having tremendous amount of knowledge and experience to land on that particular runways, and other parts of the India as well as in the world. So I would just like to tell you one thing that there was whatever a pilot would have been done at that particular point, that was, I'm very sure he has done it. Because first of all, he has not attempted landing on the very first go. As you only asked me the question, right? That the first landing was been attempted, then he go around, then was the second attempt which at the time he landed. So if you would have been not in the proper calculation, you would have not landed at the first time, right? But he didn't because there is something issues going on with it. So we don't know exactly what the issues are. Indeed, the pilot was enough skillful person, knowledgeable person, and I can say only one thing that we all have to wait for the DGCA report. Once it comes out, we'll come to know what was the cause of it. I would like to explain one term. There is something known as aquaplaning. Okay. What is that aquaplaning? Now, if you all would like to learn about it, so I would like to explain that. See, aquaplaning is something like whenever the runway is wet with the water or some kind of like if snow is there, if snow is there on the runway, if water is there on the runway, if the runway surface is wet, then that what happens at that time friction becomes less on the surface of the runway. So in that time, the landing roll, the landing distance taken by the particular any aircraft in the world, it is going to be increased. We all know the once we slip about it, if on a surface, if there is no friction, we all know that it's going to become a slippery surface. So indeed, it is going to take more distance compared to when it was in a normal condition. Right. So
Okay.
in yesterday's yesterday's condition, if you say, there were three things. First, tabletop. Second was the downslope. That runway is a downpour type of runway. Third, it was wet. So all three major bad conditions was yesterday present on it.
Okay.
So that makes the landing a bit difficult. But I'm very sure that all pilots were trained enough to land on those kind of surfaces also, because that is a part of training.
Okay. Okay. So with that, we will conclude the show. And thank you, Captain HariKrishna, for joining us and sharing your valuable views.
You're welcome.
So thank you so much. And ladies
It's a
and
pleasure.
gentlemen,
It's a pleasure.
yeah, yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. And this is Ron signing off. Thank you.